Hello, Professor Dugan. This is my audience. And I'll now present to you speech number 3. Polycystic ovarian syndrome, big disease, little spotlight. Do you know what PCOS is? I didn't think so. Many people don't. And yet it's a major disease that affects hundreds of thousands of women. It can be difficult to diagnose because it has many manifestations depending on the woman. And the possible causes of the disease are debatable. People really can't agree on what's causing the disease. Today I do want to talk to you about the manifestations of polycystic ovarian syndrome, the research that's going on into what causes the disease, and lastly, how it affects each woman, which I said it does affect women differently. So first let's look at what is polycystic ovarian syndrome. Polycystic ovarian syndrome is an endocrine disorder, and it affects hundreds of thousands of women to some degree, as I mentioned earlier. Your endocrine system is what regulates your hormonal system. It regulates everything from puberty to menopause, acne to hair loss. So since every woman has a different body, the degree of endocrine involvement varies widely. And since it varies widely, sometimes we see different symptoms for different women. As you can see up here, the first symptom I have listed, which is the most common symptom for women, is amenorrhea, or no period, lack of menstruation. The second most common symptom is obesity, and later we'll discuss that some researchers believe that that's actually a cause of the disease. And there are many other manifestations, such as infertility, thyroid involvement, as you can see here, the darkened band around this woman's neck, and as I mentioned before, obesity. So, polycystic ovarian syndrome, one of the most obvious questions many women have is, does that mean that I have cysts on my ovaries? Do I have to have cystic ovaries to have PCOS? And the answer is no. So if you look here, this is a normal ovary, and we can see that this sac is a developing egg. These smaller dots that you see are actually eggs that will develop in the coming cycles. So as hormone levels rise up, the egg bursts from the sac and is released. In a woman with PCOS, you can see that there are many of these sacs that cause the ovary to have a really protruding and bulging appearance. And what these are, they're not actually cysts, they are just over-mature eggs. And so when hormone levels don't do what they're supposed to in a woman's body with PCOS, we can develop these cystic-looking ovaries. But as I said, you actually don't have to have cystic ovaries to be diagnosed with PCOS. So the next obvious question is, what's causing this? What is going on with women's bodies to cause them to have PCOS? As I mentioned at the beginning of the speech, not everyone agrees. So the research is still evolving, and there are two main schools of thought that kind of clash with each other. The first is beta cell receptors. So beta cell receptors work in your pancreas, and they help you deal with insulin. And the second is that obesity is what causes PCOS. So we're going to flip here to this flow chart. I know it looks really overwhelming, but I will try to help you understand it here. So the first thing we can see is that there are many things involved. So the first school of thought is beta cell receptors. Beta cell receptors don't work properly, and so your body doesn't know what to do with insulin. Insulin is what tells your cells what to do with sugar. Without sugar, you don't live very long. So when your beta cell receptors aren't working properly, your body has no idea what to do with insulin, which stresses your body into producing testosterone. Testosterone suppresses your estrogen, suppresses your progesterone, and that causes your estrogen production to really go crazy, which can cause obesity, fat cell proliferation, and then we go up into this whole circle of continuing symptoms that lead right back here to poor beta cell reception. The second school of thought is that obesity causes this whole problem. So we start down here and work our way up through all these problems. Obesity causes a woman's kidneys to be stressed. They produce too much testosterone. Testosterone suppresses progesterone production, which causes our estrogen to run wild. Sound familiar? Causing this whole cycle of symptoms up here that we see. So while many experts don't agree with where the disease starts, they pretty much get to the same ending point. So now that we understand the manifestations and some possible causes of PCOS, I want to turn your attention to the effects of PCOS. Polycystic ovarian syndrome is serious. It's a lifelong disease that women have to deal with or live with. And while every woman's manifestations or symptoms are different, the risks are the same. So it's really important for women to be educated about the risks of this disease. So we know that polycystic ovarian syndrome can cause our estrogen to do crazy things. As I said, when you suppress progesterone, which is a female hormone, estrogen kind of runs crazy. You can see here that uterine cancer, cervical cancer, high blood pressure, and high cholesterol are all effects of this, along with depression. Anybody that's been through puberty or menstruation knows that when your hormones are out of whack, your mood's out of whack too, and so that's why we normally see depression associated with the disease. Insulin, back to those beta cells again, can cause a lot of problems. We have diabetes, a thickened uterus, insulin resistance or dependence, and miscarriage. Unfortunately, miscarriage is generally how a number of women with polycystic ovarian syndrome are first diagnosed. You can see here that without treatment, a woman's chance of miscarriage is 65% spontaneous abortion during the first trimester. With treatment, the risk goes down to 11%. So really knowing about the disease and treatment are key. Lastly, we can see that obesity, which may be a cause, it may be a manifestation, can give us heart disease, joint damage, along with other conditions listed previously, such as the depression or the high cholesterol. So what do I want you to take away from this speech today? I want you to understand, first of all, that PCOS is a serious disease. It affects a lot of women. And secondly, that it is manageable. There is hope out there. Much research is being done into the field of polycystic ovarian syndrome. And that it's really necessary for a woman to understand, and men to understand, the manifestations, causes, and effects of the disease. And lastly today, if you've seen any symptoms that you feel like might line up with something you're experiencing, I would hope that you would talk to your doctor. Talking to your doctor if you have these symptoms could really save your life. Thank you.